Well, let's put the point that Tessa made an accusation, Paul Nuttall, that UKIP want to see the Americanisation of the NHS. In other words, the breakup of the NHS, of it being free at the point of use, that people will have to pay for it. Do you?
No, it's complete nonsense. It's another Labour and trade union myth. We've seen it before, handed out on leaflets in recent by-election campaigns. We made it perfectly clear we want to see the NHS free at the point of delivery, and we want to see the NHS remain in public hands. And excuse me, we're not going to take any lessons from Labour on the NHS. This is the party, let's not forget, of PFI, who've saddled the NHS with a debt of £300 billion.
Right, so in terms of any social insurance scheme, that is definitely off the table for UKIP?
Completely and utterly off the table. I'll repeat what I said, free at the point of delivery and in public hands. Right,
and in terms of the £8 billion that Simon Stevens has talked about, the investment needed, where would UKIP find that?
Well, there's a whole range of places. Firstly, let's look at health tourism. It's costing this country £2 billion a year. If people had to have private health insurance when they came into the country, you'd save that £2 billion. On top of that, look, there's lots of places you can save that money. You just have to look at quangos, which are costing this country £40 billion every single year. Uncollected taxes, tax avoidance, tax evasion, £80 billion a year. The money is there. It's just not being directed correctly. But I just want to make one other point about the NHS. 48% of people who work in the NHS are not clinically qualified. It's too big, there are too many managers, there are too many bureaucrats. Yes, let's spend the money, but let's spend it on the frontline services.
All right, well, let's look at what Nigel Farage, the leader, said, which is about doctors or foreign health workers having to retake language tests. Does that mean that if a top surgeon was found not to be very good at English, you chuck them out?
Well, look, let's make it clear. I want to see doctors and nurses proficient in the language of the land. And the General... let me finish. The General Medical Council upped the bar last year, and I'm speaking now as a former teacher of English as a foreign language. I'm not convinced that the bar is set high enough. I want my nurses and doctors to be proficient in English. There's nothing wrong with that. It's simple common sense.
Right. And just very briefly, Tessa Jow, before we go, I mean, Andy Burnham said on the Today programme this morning, if the NHS stays on its current course, it will be sunk by a toxic mix of cuts and privatisation. But you do accept it was a Labour government that started private provision in the NHS, and it still only stands at 6%.
Yeah,
yes or no?
Yes, I do. Right. I do, for a very specific purpose, to deal with the lack of capacity.
Right. But it's not a bad thing.
But it's not of itself kept proportionately low.
All right, okay.
A bad thing.
All right, so he's wrong then, Andy Burnham.
But this is... No, he wasn't. No.
Look, very briefly, because we've got to move on. We've only got a few minutes left.
No, the fact is that the NHS needs long-term commitment, long-term financial commitment, and the Prime Minister's claim that you take it out of politics is simply a proxy for cutting it further and denying it the resources it needs.
I'm going to have to leave it there, or we're going to run up against the bulletins. Now,